Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus et benedictus fructus ventris tuae, Iesus. Santa Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus nunc and hora mortis nostrae. Amen. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Good morning, patriots and Christians. If you are not a patriot or a Christian, then you don't get a good morning and you can just move along. Anyway, January 8th, Friday, January 8th, we have had officially now, 2 days or a day, I guess it was yesterday that it happened, to process the death of the Republic. So if you have not done that yet, I would suggest you stop this video right now. Go do whatever you have to do to process that, whether it's hold a candlelight vigil, have a fake funeral, a mock funeral, whatever you have to do to come to the realization and face the fact that America has fallen, our republic is gone, and we were the last stronghold for Western civilization, built upon by Christianity, God's law. Once we accept that, we can analyze it and figure out how to fix it. Figure out how to restore what has now been stolen from us, okay? In order to do that, we have to understand how we got here. How did we get here? Well, it's, again, turning to the wisdom of the church like usual. There have been like 12 popes, or maybe even more than that, who have warned us of this plot for the last century. It has been a strategically patient plot to weaken the church in order to bring about a new world order, the Great Reset. But really what it is trying to destroy Christianity by weakening the Catholic Church so that the religion of Satan can be brought in. That's what it is. And the religion of Satan, I'm not specifically talking about worshiping the deity of Satan, although that is something that these freaks do. But it is more of a Luciferian agenda, whereas you worship humans. It's the cult of humanism, the cult of naturalism, and you worship the creature instead of the creator. It's the first lie in the Garden of Eden, when it's what Satan uses to convince Eve to eat the forbidden fruit. So that's where we're at. That's who's in control. So how has this happened? It's been a strategic plan put in place by the secret societies. The Illuminati really took over the Society of the Freemasons, which was started off as just a fraternal society, and then was taken over with Adam Weishaupt as the founder of the Illuminati. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's well documented. Adam Weishaupt, who is credited with all these Enlightenment ideas, the Enlightenment, the French Revolution, all this, he studied with the Jesuits. So he took all the tactics of the Jesuits and used them for his own agenda, which is a Luciferian satanic agenda. So we now need to reclaim our tactics. We need to take our tactics back and use them to re-infiltrate our institutions, which have now fallen. They stole our institutions. That's what happened. On a Christianity, they took over the Catholic Church. They infiltrated the Catholic Church. It's under eclipse right now. It's not dead. It'll come back. My Lord is also the Lord of resurrections, not only the Lord of crucifixions. There is a small remnant of us who do hold true to authentic Catholicism and authentic Christianity. And the Lord will use his people, his remnant, to bring about his glory upon this earth. Make no mistake about it. What did they do? They injected communists into the seminaries, into the institution of the church, and then used those corrupt and really misled priests to project out globally nonsense and to weaken the church, because the New World Order would never be established with authentic Catholicism ruling the earth. It would just not happen. Satan knows that. He's a coward, so he had to get the church out of the way first. And he'll never get the church out of the way completely, but he had to weaken it to bring about what we see right now, which is it's not ironic, it's very symbolic that what we see happening in the United States government right now, all three branches are going to be run in 2021 in the foreseeable future by fake Catholics. We have fake Catholic Joe Biden as a president. We have fake Catholic Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House, and we have fake Catholic Justice Roberts, I think his name is, the Supreme Court guy. That's not a coincidence. That is the fruits of the last century of infiltration into the church, and therefore projection of this agenda out to the whole world. Our school systems, so that's the first institution, the Catholic Church. The second institution, the school systems, have been under attack for just as long. Schools were originally started by Christianity to educate children on the religion, on Christianity, as well as mathematics and all the other stuff. But that's why schools were started initially. So then they come along and convince us to take God out of the schools because it's not fair or something like that. But it's not so that there will be no religion in the school. It was so that Satan could bring his religion into the school, which is why you see his religion being pushed in the schools, such as LBGT and in all this stuff. And really all it is this lie of freedom to follow your passions. That's what the Enlightenment is. To throw off the yoke of God so that we can live under our own laws and our own freedom instead of God's, stifling oppression, right? But that's the lie. What it leads to is bondage to Satan. So we're really, by pushing his agenda into our schools, making our kids slaves to Satan is what's happening. And it's been very effective. Why have drugs gone up? The use of drugs, the use of, or teen pregnancies, all kinds of stuff, right? So that's the whole goal of it. It's just to normalize sin so that Satan can separate you from Jesus. That's it. That's what it always comes down to. It's so he can have your soul in hell with him. That's the whole battle. You don't have eternal life. So the schools, and then lastly, we just saw a couple of days ago, our government has been taken over by a satanic agenda in the form of communism, and there's many examples for that. But they're in full power now. So we have to accept that, and we have to do something about it. We can't just sit back anymore. So going home after your stupid job and drinking your beer and getting drunk and watching football is not an option anymore, boys. So we're going to have to put our big boy pants on now and step up our game. Okay, the time for just sitting idly by and eating chips and Twinkies is over. It's over. It's going to be over either way. They're either going to take all that comfort from you, or you're going to get rid of the comfort and do something to advance the kingdom of God and take back what was built. Christendom, Western civilization, was built by God and man cooperating together. Okay, so we need to take that back. It has now been hijacked, and we need to take it back. And we need to use their tactics, or originally our tactics that they stole from us, to do that. So that means we need to re-infiltrate every single institution. Get in high places in these institutions, then bring all your friends in with you, and don't let the commies in. Fire the commies. I'm serious. It seems extreme, but they like to label us as extremists, and this is how we got in this situation to begin with, because we were told while they were taking over all our institutions that we were extreme if we resisted the fact, if we resisted their agenda. I'm sorry, I'm extreme. You're the one who's teaching kids that it's okay to chop off their genitals. You're teaching kids that you can redefine marriage against God's law. And I don't believe that, and I'm the extremist? No, we're living in an upside down world, and we need to work on flipping it. And even if we don't succeed, we still have to answer to God. All of us do. So at least we can answer with good deeds when we go to our judgment. So use their tactics against them, re-infiltrate, Traditional Catholics, so let's start with the church. Let's break this down. Traditional Catholics, let's start with Catholicism, church, institution. We're going to have to form alliances with Protestants, evangelical Protestants who don't want to take God's law out of society, or whatever other Protestant that doesn't want to take God's law in its entirety, though. You know, not the Protestants that think contraception is okay. I'm talking about hardcore Protestants that believe in keeping God's law to the T. Form alliances with them, in local alliances, in do what I said, infiltrate institutions. Traditional Catholics, you're not going to want to hear this. This is not going to be a popular opinion, but it's the popular thing right now. The cool thing to do is to flee these Novus Ordo parishes and go to traditional Latin Mass, which I think is fine for the most part, but don't completely abandon the Novus Ordo parishes. Some of them are not, past all hope. Some of them can be pushed back in the direction of authentic Catholicism. Those are good people that are just like misled. If you start speaking up in a Novus Order parish, have a group of your traditional Latin friends go to a Novus Order parish and start talking to people. Or just little acts. Like, I'm one of the only ones that wears a veil. Like, people take notice of me. First of all, I'm a single mom. Second of all, I'm young. Everybody in my parish is probably over 70. And I walk in with a veil. Like, people take notice of that. I do silent protests. I will not, I'll kneel instead of bow at the creed. I'll just little tiny things that if you are the only one doing them, people around you notice and they're gonna be curious and it'll start sparking things, okay? I sit in the front too, so the priest has to look at me too. I mean, I'm just being honest. I refuse to leave the church after communion. And the other answer on the other side of it is we need young priests, conservatively minded, traditionally minded priests to go infiltrate the seminaries and be spit out to all places across the country to restore Catholicism back to its roots. And this has been happening. I don't know what's changed. I don't know if the commies just died off, but the young priests that are coming out of seminaries are very traditionally minded. They're rejecting all the lazy fake Catholic teachings. They're rejecting it. Some of the younger guys are really hardcore. So do that. And that's really all we can do on the speak out YouTube channels, whatever. That's the other thing I have to talk about is the media. But there's not a whole lot we can do other than, from our level as Catholics, don't abandon Novus Ordo parishes, because there's more of them. For the simple fact that there's more of them. So if properly pushed back in the right direction, they can be effective. They've been stolen from us and we need to recapture them is what it is. And then obviously put pressure on your priests and bishops nicely and respectfully. Next is the schools. We need conservative teachers, conservative Christian teachers to go infiltrate the schools. I don't care what you have to do to get in either. You can pretend to be a liberal or whatever you have to do to get in other than risking your soul. Don't disown God or anything like that. But if you have to pretend to be a little more liberal than you are to get in, do what you have to do, get in, and bring your friends with you. And retake the schools. Don't teach the satanic agenda. When it comes down that this is what you have to teach, don't teach it. Explain to your kids why you're not teaching it. Explain to your kids the right thing to do. And you know what? If you get fired, so be it. So be it. You might have made a difference in 15 kids that are now going to make a difference in the lives of 15 other people. And it's going to take a long time. It's going to take generations. Train your kids, parents. Train your kids to think like this, to think like I have to go take back our institutions. I have to go to college to become a teacher so that I could take back our institutions. Like, train your kids like this. Because the younger generations are our only hope, And it's not fair to them for us to sit back and do nothing and let them come under this satanical regime. On a government level, I touched on it a little bit in my last video, but we have to start at a local level again, befriend your governors, run for local governments, work your way up. You have to start from the bottom. The Fed is gone. Just don't even worry about them. But we have to start from the bottom, and we have to force our governors to reject every tyrannical, satanic thing that has come down from the Fed and will come down from the Fed. Okay, and that, like I said in my last video, kick Planned Parenthood out. Kick them out. If you want an abortion, you got to go to a blue state. That's just the way it is. That's how we get God on our side. Lastly, let's see, the government, the media. Unfortunately, the media is the toughest one to infiltrate because they just will cancel you. I mean, they just won't give you a platform. So the answer there is probably really the alternative media. Support alternative media, build alternative platforms, get off Facebook, get off Twitter, get on Parler. If you're techie, build a new Facebook. It's just, there's not a whole lot you could do there. I mean, you could infiltrate those for the purpose of exposing them for what they are, but unfortunately, the media is the toughest institution to infiltrate for sure. But they just cancel them, just ignore them. Just don't subscribe to them. That's all you can do there. And I have to interject something here as well. Stop relying on the internet. I mean, do your internet stuff, do what you got to do, but we need to find alternatives to the internet. Mailers, mail stuff out, go bring back the newspaper, make a magazine, physical paper. I don't know what the answer is, but it is entirely too easy to be canceled on the internet. Entirely. And we see that happening. They just canceled Trump. They just deplatformed the president of the United States, and that is the fate of all his followers. So understand, we have to find alternatives to the internet as well. So yeah, the answer is, like I said, we have to take back our institutions. Do I think it's too late? Yes, I do. I think we're going to see divine intervention because I think it is too late. However, I'm a believer in the fact that this is not the end of the world, that this is the end of an era. And that once this era gets bad enough, once the end gets bad enough, there will be divine intervention, and then we will have an opportunity to build back up. So why not start now? Why not start building back Christendom now? That's the point. That's what we need to do. And those are the people that God will protect and bring into his next era. Mark my words, make no mistake about it. Okay, and on a side note, I also have to mention this. What are going to be the tactics of the party of Satan from here on out? I mentioned it a little bit in the last video, but they're just going to try to demoralize us. We're going to be blamed for everything. We're going to be set up. There's going to be false flag events that are blamed on patriots. Every possible thing you could think of, they're going to throw at us. Ignore it. Simple as that. Just ignore it. And as far as taking back the institutions, make no mistake about it, we are at a disadvantage if you look at it from a pure natural level. Why? Because we have morals. And we have somebody to answer to. With that being said, they don't. So they can do every dirty trick in the book. They don't have a conscience. We do, so we have to beg God for help. That's really the only way. But we need to put our people. We need to have patriots in key positions in institutions. And I'm talking, I focus mostly in this video on education, church education, and government and media. But at the same time, we still have to look at law enforcement, military, law enforcement. Luckily, those are mostly patriots, but they have they have to walk on eggshells too. But what we need is chiefs of police that are patriots, sheriff's department. They can be elected. Those are our allies. Make sure you're electing solid sheriffs. And here's the thing. Law enforcement, y'all have officer discretion. Don't enforce the nonsense. That's all. Use your officer discretion. Law enforcement are truly the friends of patriots. They get a bad rep sometimes, and there are bad ones, but they truly are our friends and our allies. What could turn this whole thing around, honestly, would be a revival of the Catholic Church, plain and simple, and a good pope, a good, strong Archbishop Vigano type pope. Maybe that's going to come down the line, but make no mistake about it, the Lord is going to purify his church before that happens. What he's doing is he's showing us. He's showing us what. So when there is divine justice poured out on these terrible shepherds, it's not a surprise. It's not, we don't say, why are you doing this? We understand. And so we don't make that mistake again. But the Catholic Church, being a global institution, if it is restored to its former glory, can put an end to all this in a hurry. In a hurry. Make no mistake about it. Which would do wonders for the religion because it would convert a bunch of oppressed people and all these other religions. I mean, that's what I don't get. Like, by the church embracing the world, you're losing people. You're losing souls. So expect to be blamed for everything. They're going to try to demoralize us. Go back and watch my video about cheaters. That's what they do. When they get caught and their dirty deeds are out in the open, there's never going to be an apology. There's never going to be them feeling bad. They're going to demoralize you. They're going to burn your house down. Whatever they have to do to make you stop resisting is what they're going to do. And the answer, in all honesty, are not these large protests. You will never see me at a protest. Not my style. Not something I do. The answer is because they just use it for concealment. That's what you can't get away with it. There's too many provocateurs. There's too many agents working against the patriots, against their movement. All these militias get infiltrated. All the protests get used to storm Capitol buildings. You know what I mean? So that's not the best route of action. I'm not saying that there's not a place for protesting, because there is, but not in the environment we're in right now. Now's the time to hunker down, get to strongholds, get to red states, build up the red states, build up the churches in those red states, and then use those places as safety nets, a home base, if you will, a stronghold to then go and recapture the rest of the institutions. But it has to start at home. It absolutely has to start at home. And even by home, I mean in your own households. All you Catholics who practice contraception, wrong answer. Authentic Catholics need to be having as many kids as they can right now, quite frankly. Use your kids as little soldiers. Use them to spit them out into the world and into different institutions. I'm serious. It sounds insane, but it's really just the teaching of God, right? That we have forgotten. We need to re-examine the Lord's law. Even if we think we know it, we need to re-examine the true magisterium of the church, and we need to follow that. And that's how we become successful. But just so you know, it's not going to be easy. And they don't play by the rules, but we have rules that we have to play by, which does hinder us. It absolutely does in the physical realm, but that will be overcome if you're in a state of grace, and the Lord will help you. But like I said, never do anything to betray your soul. It's not worth it. Never deny your God. So, all right, that's all I got to say. That was just a side note that I'm adding in here. If you haven't developed a devotion to my patron saint, Saint Joan of Arc, I recommend doing that. She is a saint for our time. So the 100th year anniversary of her canonization was in 2020. Imagine that. She was a hero in the 100-year war between France and England. And she was raised up by God to reclaim France from an illegitimate government. She's a saint for us right now in America for sure. So, talk to her. She's a good one. She answers. She's my patron saint. I was confirmed on the 100th year anniversary of her canonization on her feast day. So, I'm constantly in communication with Saint Joan and asking her for help. But the answer is to infiltrate. Violence isn't going to get us anywhere. It's actually going to make things worse. Don't resort to violence. Yelling, crying, screaming, Complaining isn't going to work. I mean, you could just pack it up, take your toys, and go home and go off the grid, but eventually they're going to find you. Eventually, if you let them have enough power, they're going to hunt you down. Um, we have gotten here because we're too nice. Stop being so nice. Stop being nice. They're evil. You can't negotiate with them and don't tolerate them. Do not compromise with them. Do not negotiate with them, and do not tolerate them. Do what you have to do to recapture the institutions. If you have to be friendly with them, do that. But don't let them pull you into their deception, because that's exactly what it is, a giant deception. And I wouldn't try to pull them out of their deception, particularly at this point either, unless they're showing some interest in getting out. But the main priority right now needs to be recapturing the institutions. Work your way in, and then bring your friends with you. That's it. That's all we can do. That's what they did, and it's been very effective. So, Virgin Most Powerful, pray for us. Saint Joseph, pray for us. Joan of Arc Media out.